What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be creating lineups of the best players from each division and checking out which division is the best. Now, before I get started, consider liking and subscribing and drop a comment telling me which division you think will be the best. Now, we're going to start off with the Atlantic division, which has the Celtics, Nets, Raptors, 76ers, and the Knicks. And at point guard, we're going to go with James Harden. Harden's had a few injuries over the past couple years and hasn't been as elite as he used to be. But I think with his new role in Philadelphia and with the pairing of Joel Embiid, I think it's going to be a good fit, and I think he'll do well this season. He's been training a lot in the offseason, and he looks like he's been in good shape. So I'm excited to see how he'll play. Now, at shooting guard, we're going to go with Jaylen Brown from the Celtics. Obviously, had an amazing playoffs. Was maybe their best player in the finals as well for the Celtics, as Jason Tatum struggled. But yeah, this is a pretty solid backcourt. I'm liking how the Atlantic division's stacking up so far. Small forward, we're going to go with Jason Tatum. And he had a great season as well. He really played good defense this year, something that he didn't do as well in the past. And he had a pretty good playoffs as well. Played really well in the first three series. And then up until the finals, he had a pretty bad shooting outing against the Warriors. Only averaged like 22 points a game and just turned the ball over quite a lot. But last week he claimed he had a hand injury. I don't know if it was true, but that could have affected his shooting percentages. Now at power forward, we're going to go with Kevin Durant from the Nets. This is a pretty OP front court. Tatum and Kevin Durant, both insane shooters from the mid-range and the three. This lineup's looking pretty good so far. Now at center, got to go with Joel Embiid from the 76ers. Joel Embiid was a top 2 MVP candidate, and he led the league in scoring with over 30 points a game last year. He's an absolute beast when he stays healthy. And yeah, this is the starting lineup of the Atlantic division. This is looking pretty solid. This might be one of the best starting fives, to be honest. Now, let's start off with the bench. So what I'm going to do is add 2 guards, 2 forwards, maybe a center, maybe even 3 forwards, and then just fill the last 3 spots out with just the best players available. At the backup point guard spot, we're going to go with Fred VanVleet from the Raptors. He had an all-star season, one of the best point guard defenders in the league as well. He shoots the ball really good. Solid backup point guard. At the other backup spot, we're going to go with Kyrie from the Nets. And I think in a lot of divisions, he would be the starting point guard. In this case, I was considering putting him in the starting position, but I think James Harden is just a little bit better. And it just goes to show you how stacked this Atlantic division is. In the backup forward spot, I'm going to go with Pascal Siakam for the Toronto Raptors. I think that's a good spot for him. He's a great player. Toronto Raptors best player as well. And then we're going to go with Julius Randle. It's funny because I was looking this up before, and his highest rated card in 2K22 is an 84 on the Knicks. And the rest of them are all of him in the Lakers jerseys, which is kind of interesting. So we're going to go with him. He had a good year 2 years ago, and then last year had a bit of a down year, but he's still a good player. And then at the backup center / forward spot, I'm going to go with Ben Simmons. Now, Ben Simmons was clowned the entire year after passing that shot up against the Hawks. Kind of feel bad for him, but he had that back injury, had mental health issues and whatever. But people forget that he was actually a very good player for the past 2 years. He's an all NBA level defender, great defensive player, he could play 1 through 5. And the only weakness he had was that he couldn't shoot. Like, other than that, he's a great passer, great finisher, good size. So I think he'd do good at center for the Nets as well. Just provides better spacing than if you had him at point guard. And that's kind of the reason it didn't work out with the Sixers, is because he was playing point guard, Joel Embiid was playing center, and there just wasn't enough spacing for both of them to operate in. Now, in this next bench position, I'm going to put Jalen Brunson, who recently just signed with the Knicks. And I like this move for the Knicks. Obviously gives them a nice point guard, which they haven't had in a long time. And I think he's going to do well there, being the primary ball handler and not having to share the ball with Luka as much. So yeah, he's going to have a good season. He also really turned up in the playoffs. His scoring jumped from 16 points a game to 21.6, which is nice. So I'm excited to see how far he can go in his new role. At the next bench spot, we're going to go with Tyrese Maxey from the 76ers. Bro, I really like this guy. He's only in his second year, entering his third, and he was already averaging 17.5 points a game and shot it at like 42% from 3. And then his scoring jumped up in the playoffs to like 21, 22. And he had some really good games. So I think he's going to have a really good season next year. Scoring might go a little bit down with James Harden having the ball a little bit more, but he's still a great player and he's a good addition to this lineup. Now this last spot was kind of hard for me to choose because there's a lot of guys that could have made it. But I'm gonna go with Scotty Barnes from the Raptors. He had a crazy season, won the Rookie of the Year, was one of the best players in his rookie class. He was great defensively, can truly guard 1 through 5, and his scoring wasn't as bad as people thought coming out of the draft. He averaged like a solid 17 points a game, and yeah, he's gonna have a bright future ahead of him. Now, other players I was considering adding but didn't end up adding to this list was Tobias Harris from the Sixers, Gary Trent Jr. from the Raptors, and OG Anunoby. Let me know in the comments who you would have added and if you think this list is accurate. Now this is the first divisional lineup I've done, but looking at it, it actually looks like a pretty solid team. You got a really good starting 5 and the bench is pretty solid. And I think out of the 6 divisions, this should be a top 3 team. Now let's move to the Central Division, who has the Bulls, Cavaliers, Pistons, Pacers, and Bucks. Starting at point guard for the Central Division, let's go with Darius Garland. He had his first All-Star appearance last year, and he's one of my favorite point guards to watch. He's super shifty, shoots the 3-ball well at about 38%, and passes it well as well. Averages about 8.6 assists a game, and he's just real smooth with it. He kind of reminds me of Steve Nash, and he's going to do real well in Cleveland, especially with Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley. He's got some nice lob targets as well. Now the 2 guard, we're going to go with Zach LaVine. Now Zach had an amazing season the year before this one. He averaged like 27 points a game, was shooting the ball really well, and he's still averaging about 24 points a game now, but DeRozan has entered the lineup, so he's taken a little bit of the shots away from him, but he's still a solid shooting guard. Now at the small forward position, we're going to go with Chris Middleton, second best player on the Bucks, high proficient player, killer from the mid-range, good passer as well, and yeah, he fits in quite nicely. Power forward, we're going to go with DeMar DeRozan. Now, I know that on his card it says shooting guard / small forward, but we all know that DeRozan plays a lot of power forward. And he just had a crazy year last year. You know, when he was on the Raptors, he was doing well, and then he went to the Spurs, and everybody thought he had kind of dropped off a little bit. Now, with his change of scenery in Chicago, he averaged a career high 27.9 points a game, was one of the best scorers in the league. And he did this all on 50% shooting from the floor. And considering the high difficulty of shots from the mid-range that he takes, this is pretty impressive. However, in the playoffs against the Bucks, that efficiency did drop off a little bit and his points dropped down to about 20 points a game, but still a fantastic season from DeRozan. Now at center, I gotta go with Giannis, who I think is the best player in the game right now. Now at center, I gotta go with Giannis. He had a career high 29.9 points a game last year. He's probably one of the best defenders in the league as well, and just puts so much pressure on the rim. Got to the line career high 11.6 times a game this year. He's a great passer as well at 5.8 assists. And yeah, he's just the best player in the game, man. Can't go wrong here. So this is the Central Division starting 5. It's not the best, but I mean, a lineup with 5 All-Stars is still pretty good. But, you know, compared to the other divisions full of stars, I don't think this matches up as well as I thought it would. Probably a bottom 3 team, but I don't know, I gotta see the other lineups first before I can make a full judgment, and we still also have the bench to go. So starting off on the bench, we got Tyrese Halliburton, and while he was on the Kings, he averaged about 14 points a game, but that jumped up to 17 points a game, and he also averaged 9.6 assists on the Pacers, and he's basically the focal point of their offense, and he's a really good young player to look out for. He's only in his 2nd year, and I think he has really good potential to be a great player in this league. And he's also a really good shooter. If you've watched his games, he has a really ugly 3-point jump shot, but it goes in. Like, he shoots it at about 42% from 3, which is kind of weird considering his weird form. Now at the other backup guard spot, we got to go with Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is probably the best guard defender in the NBA right now. Maybe even the best perimeter defender. Like, he's absolutely clamps. Plus, he manages to score the ball well. He scored at 18.6 points a game last season. Plus, he shoots it over 40%, and he's a great playmaker as well. He almost averaged 7 assists last season. Now at the backup forward spot, I'm going to go ahead and put Cade Cunningham here. He was the #1 overall pick last year, and he missed a few games to start the year and kind of struggled to get going to start, but then he got the hang of things. Ended up averaging about 17.5 points a game, as well as 5.5 rebounds and 5.5 assists. Didn't shoot the ball crazy efficient, but you know, he's a rookie, and I think once he gets the hang of things in the NBA with more experience, he's going to be a really good player. Has a lot of potential as well. At the backup forward spot, I'm going to go ahead and put Jarrett Allen in here from the Cavaliers. He had an amazing season. He's only 23 years old, and he made his first All-Star team. And yeah, he's just really good last. He averaged about 16 points and 10 to 11 rebounds a game, and he shot it at 67% from the floor, which is amazing. And it helps having a point guard like Darius Garland who can get the ball to you, get you easy shots. And yeah, he's just been super good for the Cavs. And I shouldn't forget to add that he anchors that Cavs defense as well. At the backup center spot, I'm going to go with Nikola Vucevic. He had a pretty good season last year, but not as great as he used to be. Averaged about 17 points a game and didn't shoot the ball as well as he used to, maybe with less touches from DeRozan and Zach LaVine. However, he still rebounds the ball really well, 11 rebounds a game, so yeah, good backup center. At the next spot on the bench, we're going to go with Lonzo Ball from the Chicago Bulls. He's one of their most impactful players. He got injured during the season with the Bulls and it kind of messed up their season. They were playing really great defense with him on the floor. He's one of the best guard defenders in the league. Plus, he was shooting the ball really well from 3, and he's a great playmaker as well. The next bench position, we got Evan Mobley, and he was leading the Rookie of the Year race for a good part of the season until he got injured. He had a great regular season for the Cavs. He averaged about 15 points and 8 rebounds, and he was a beast defensively. He was guarding a lot of different positions, was versatile, and averaged about 1.7 blocks per game, and he was really good at protecting the rim for the Cavs last year. Now with the last spot, I'm going to put Miles Turner here. He's one of the best rim protectors in the league. He was injured a lot of the year, still averaged about 13 points a game. This kind of concludes our lineup for the Central Division. Not gonna lie, this bench is really weak compared to the Atlantic one we just did. And the starting five doesn't have as much star power as they probably should to compete against the other teams. So yeah, this is one of the weaker lineups. Let me know who else you would have put in this lineup and who else you would have taken out. The last division in the Eastern Conference is the Southeast Division, which contains the Wizards, Hawks, Magic, Heat, and Hornets. At the point guard spot, we're going to go with Trae Young, who averaged a career high in three-point percentage at 38%, as well as a career high in assists at 9.7%. And he's one of the best point guards in the league, one of the best scorers as well. He scores about 29 points a game. And even though he had a really bad playoff series against the Heat, where he only scored about 15 points a game, 6 turnovers, and about 31% from the floor, he's still one of the best point guards in the league, even though he can't defend. Now, at the 2 spot, we're going to go with DeJounte Murray, Trae Young's new backcourt member, and he had a crazy year last year. His first All-Star appearance, averaged about 21 points a game, 9 assists and 8 rebounds a game, and he led the league in saves with 3 points. And he's one of the best guard defenders in the league. And I think he's going to fit really well next to Trae, and he can pick up all his defensive assignments. And I think having Trae off ball would really work out for him, as Trae wouldn't have to create. He can come off and down, off ball screen, within the three. So I think it's going to work out really nicely for Atlanta. At the small forward spot, we're going to go with Jimmy Butler, who's just an absolute beast in the playoffs. Went from averaging 21 points a game in the regular season to 27, and just took the Miami Heat on his back and just carried them to the conference finals, where he was basically a 3-point away from going to the finals. And yeah, he's just got that dog in him, great defender, great shot creator. And he was included in a lot of trades this year, but I'm kind of glad he's staying on the Hawks because I think he's a pretty underrated player. He only played 54 games during this year, but he still averaged 16 points and 8 rebounds, and he is a good 3-point shooter as well. He shoots it about 37%. I think it's nice that he's staying in Atlanta. It's going to be a good offensive weapon to trade in. At center, we go Bam Adebayo from the Heat. He had a great year this year, averaging like 19 points a game on good shooting as well, 55% from the floor. We go with Tim Brown, and he's a great defender too. Anchors that Miami Heat averages about 1.4 steals a game, as well as almost a block a game. But I'd like to see him be able to create a little bit more offense for himself, as against the Celtics, he kind of got clamped down, and the Heat really needed him in those playoffs, just as a secondary scorer to Jimmy Butler, as the injury to Tyler Hero kind of left the team with no other secondary scoring options. His scoring dropped in the playoffs a little bit, going from 19 points down to just under 15. So they're the starting lineup for the Southeast team. Still doesn't quite match up to the Atlantic Division starting lineup, and I don't know if it's as good as the Central lineup. Pretty solid, but we'll need a bench now, and the bench is a lot better than the Central. Now, starting off at the backup point guards, we're going to go for Paul. His second year in the NBA, he had a good season, making an all-star team. Next up, we got Kuzma's teammate Kristaps Porzingis from the Washington Wizards. He got traded over from Dallas for Spencer Dinwiddie. He had a pretty good season with the Wizards, averaging about 22 points a game. And yeah, he's going to be one of their main this season. And if you've been paying close attention to world basketball right now, he's going crazy for Latvia. He gets to see the World Cup qualifiers or something like that. But yeah, he's been playing very well for them. At center, we're going to go with Clint Capella from the Atlanta Hawks. Had a good season, averaged about 11 points a game, but he has been one of the best rebounders in the league for the past 4 or 5 seasons. He averaged about 12 rebounds a game this year, and he continues to be a good long-term player, and eventually DeJounte Murray. The next bench position is going to be Tyler Hero, who had a career-high season, won the 6th Man of the Year for the Miami Heat. He averaged about 7.7 points a game, just under 20% shooting. However, in the playoffs, he really dropped down a bit. He was able to shoot a little bit, but only averaged about 12 points. Next up, we got Kyle Lowry, who's going to be getting 6 years old this season. And, you know, he's still a decent player for the Miami Heat. You could tell how important he was when he was out during the playoffs with that hamstring injury. Averaged about 13 or 14 points a game. He still shot the ball pretty well at about 37% and passed the ball well too at about 7 assists a game. And the last spot, this might be controversial, and I don't even know if this counts, but we're going to put Miles Bridges in here, who might not even be on the team next year because he beats his wife. So I don't know if he's going to get extended, get that next contract, or he's going to be in jail for the next 10 years. Those pictures from his wife are hurting him. He brutally has bruises all over his face. It's pretty nasty, but he did have a good season last year. Averaged about 20 points a game, up from about 13 in the previous season. He was in contention for most of the year. Was borderline all-star as well. But yeah, he's probably going to be in jail next year. Now that concludes the Eastern Conference and the Southeast Division. This division has a pretty solid team. I don't know, I feel like it's about decent players in their starting lineup, and their team is pretty solid as well. Now let's move on to the Western Conference and the Northwest Division. I think this is going to be a pretty good division. Starting off the Northwest Division at point guard, we're going to go with Damian Lillard. Now, he had a down season last year as he was injured. He had that ab injury. Still averaged about 24 points a game, but his efficiency was way down from previous years and only got to play about 29 games. However, the seasons before that, he averaged about 28 points a game, and then the year before that, 30. And I think when healthy, he's probably about the top 10 player in this league. And he's one of the best shooters in this league as well, and can really score from anywhere inside the area. At the shooting guard spot, I'm going to go ahead and put Donovan Mitchell on here. Now, he might not even be eligible by the time the season starts, as he has been in trade rumors after Rudy Gobert was traded. People say he's going to the Knicks. I have no idea, but it looks like he'll leave off before the season starts. Had a pretty solid season last year, averaged about 26 points a game. And yeah, he's a premier shooting guard in this league, and he's probably about a top 20 player as well. At the small forward spot, I'm going to go ahead and put Anthony Edwards, who's in his 2nd season in the league and was an absolute dog for the Timberwolves last year. Averaged about 21 points a game, and in the playoffs jumped up to 25 points a game. I think this guy's going to be an all-star this year. He's going to be looking really good. At power forward, we're going to be having Karl Anthony Towns, which is the position he's going to be playing this year with Rudy Gobert in the lineup. And I think he's just come off one of his best seasons. Averaged close to 25 points a game and shot the ball very efficiently at 41% from 3. And he says he's the greatest big man shooter of all time. And I have to agree, he shoots it at about 40% for his career from 3. It'll be interesting to see how the dynamics of Towns and Gobert will match up on defense. It'll be interesting to see how their offense plays 15 rebounds a game to go with 2 blocks. He's one of the best defenders in the league, has like 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and I think he'll be big for the Timberwolves coming up this year. On the bench, we got Anthony Simons from the Trailblazers, who is one of the best young players in the league. He averaged about 17 points a game last year to go with 40% shooting from 3, and he's a great slasher as well. And yeah, he's a really good young player to watch out for this season, as he got a lot of rest with things Lillard being out, and he'll probably go back to being a secondary creator once Lillard is back in the lineup. Next bench spot, we go to Jeremy Grant, who's a solid player from Pistons. He just joined the Trailblazers, and he'll be a good pickup, good scorer, averaged close to 20 points a game last year, and will be a good scoring option behind Damian Lillard. The last spot on this lineup goes to Yusuf Nurkic, who averaged about 15 points and 11 rebounds last year for the Trailblazers. Only played about 56 games for them, but he'll be an important piece for the Trailblazers, one who can push for the playoffs. A couple other guys I considered adding to this lineup was Josh Giddey, Kyle Anderson, Mike Conley, and Jordan Clarkson. Let me know what you think about this lineup. I think it's pretty decent. It's got a good amount of talent in the starting 5 and on the bench. The next division in the West is the Pacific Division, and that has the Lakers, Clippers, Warriors, Suns, and Kings. Now let me tell you right now that this division is absolutely stacked. Now to start things off, let's go with the best point guard in the league, Russell Westbrook. I'm just playing as Stephen Curry. He's the best point guard in the league right now, and he has been for like the past 8 years. He had a bit of a down season shooting the ball, shooting it at only 39%, which is still very high. Averaged about 25.5 points a game, and obviously led the Warriors to their 4th championship in 8 years and won his first finals MVP. It's also crazy to me that he had one of his best finals appearances, averaging about 30 points a game against the best defense in the league and the defensive player of the year, Marcus Smart. At the shooting guard spot, we got George here, who didn't play very much last year due to injury, but still had a good year, averaged about 2.2 steals a game, 5.7 assists, close to 7 rebounds, as well as 24 and a bit points a game. The Clippers this year are going to be stacked with him and Kawhi back. Both of them are elite defenders and shot creators, and I think they should be a top 3 team in the West if they are healthy. At small forward, we got Kawhi Leonard, who is coming off his ACL injury, and I'm excited to see him back. He's one of the best defenders in this league, and he's also one of the best scorers as well, especially when it comes to playoff time. I think when healthy, he's about a top 5 player in the league. At power forward, we got LeBron James, who is one of the greatest players of this generation, and it's crazy that he's like 37 years old or whatever, and he actually started playing like the second highest in his career, so he's still playing at a very high level. Obviously, the defense isn't quite there, and he's a little bit inconsistent in that part, but it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back from the 4th season for the Lakers if he's out of the playing spot, and he lost even worse this season. We'll have to see how that goes, especially on the back. Speaking of AD, let's put him in second right here. The past 2 seasons, he's only played 31 games in 4 years, but he is still one of the best defenders in the league, probably like a top 10 defender when he's healthy. He's a good scorer as well, only about 21 points a game last year, but that is something like a damn gem. He rebounds the ball pretty well as well. I think this season is actually going to be how the ball laid out, because he has been very injury prone throughout his career. So far, this is definitely the best starting 5 that we have out of all of the divisions. It's really crazy. All 5 of these guys are top 10 caliber players in the league when you're in defense/top. The bench is also incredible, but their bench is probably the best in the league. But somehow is still good. He's like 38 years old, averaged about nearly 15 points a game, but led the league in assists at 10.8 and averaged almost 2 steals a game. He had some great games this year. He is very efficient in clutch time, as well as Devin Booker, and he had some really good games in the playoffs. However, he also had a couple very bad games in the playoffs, which is unlike Chris Paul, which may show some signs of him aging. Next up, we got Devin Booker, who averaged a career-high 26.8 points a game this year, and he was the best player on the best team in the league in the regular season, and he also shot the ball very good efficiency, close to 3 points. As small forward, I'm going to put Thompson, who only played about 30-ish games coming off 2 years of injuries, but he still played very decently, averaged about 20 points a game. His efficiency was very good. That's just because he was able to do the thing, and his defense is not quite as fast as it used to be, but in the finals he showed signs of getting back, including some of that rust off. he just really turns it up another notch and just anchors that Warriors defense, who came second in the league and probably would have finished first if he was not injured. At the backup center spot, we got DeAndre Ayton, who is in his 4th year in the NBA, had a good year, averaging almost 10 rebounds a game, shoots the ball very efficiently, over 60%. I honestly think the Suns should draft him. He's a very good post player, very efficient around it, and I can see why he was unhappy with the coaching staff because he probably should have got more touches in the playoffs. Next on the bench, we got Jordan Poole on the defensive side. He probably should have won most improved player. The season before, he was literally in the G League. Now he's averaging close to 19 points a game. He's coming off the bench this year. I think he's a good candidate for 6th man of the year. Shoots it pretty efficiently. Started off the season a little bit slow, but it's however, just get as many minutes as you can. During the regular season, next up, we got the first player from the Kings, which is De'Aaron Fox. I think he's going to have a really good season. He only played 59 games last year and averaged about 23 points a game. However, when Tyrese Halliburton got traded, he averaged almost 30 points a game. So I think with his new pairing with Sabonis and the addition of Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter, this team could low-key make the play-in, and I think De'Aaron Fox is bound to have a really good season. Now, the last spot on this list, we're going to put Sabonis, who came into the Kings from the Pacers this year, and he averaged a solid 19 points, nearly 11 rebounds, and close to 6 assists. So yeah, he's been playing at a high level, and I think he's going to take the Kings up out of the trash. Now, there were a few other people I was considering putting on this list, but didn't quite make it. That was Andrew Wiggins and Miles Bridges. Let me know who else you would put in this list. So yeah, overall, this Pacific Division is absolutely stacked. Star talent in the starting five is prominent as well. Now, I don't really see any division in this division now because the Southwest Division, which is the last division we'll be doing in the West and in the league. It's got Memphis Grizzlies, Rockets, bro, I'm mad because I just recorded this entire division and I forgot to put my mic on, so I'm gonna have to read it real quick. But like I really don't jump around. Really crazy season last year. 3rd year in the league, most improved player, jumped up to 27.4 points a game. And he was just elite at slashing, led the league in points per game in the paint, which was crazy, being like 6'1", 6'2" guard. And he beat the Timberwolves and had the Warriors struggling for a little bit, but then got injured. And I think he's bound for another great season next year. At the 2 spot, we got Luka Doncic. He's in his 4th season. He had a really good year last year, averaging 28.4 points a game, as well as 9 rebounds and 9 assists a game. And he's just really stepped up. He's in his 4th year and he's already one of the top 5 or 6 players in this league. And really turns up in the playoffs as well. Averages about 32.5 points a game in the playoffs, which is very close to Jimmy Butler's playoff record for points per game. And yeah, he's just going to be really good. Took the massive position on the finals against the Warriors, which is very impressive considering his roster and the lack of star talent in it. And he also beat the #1 seeded Phoenix Suns as well. At the 3 spot, we got Brandon Ingram. He had a good season last year, was a little bit injured, but averaged about 22.3 points a game. And then in the playoffs, he really turned up, averaged 27 points a game against the Suns. And yeah, he's going to be really good for the Pelicans next year. And their roster's looking quite tight. At power forward, we got Zion Williamson, who sat out the entirety of last year with that foot injury, got a little bit overweight. But I think if he comes back healthy next year, then the Pelicans will be really good, especially with CJ McCollum being added into the mix. And don't forget that in his last half of the season, when he played about 60 games, he averaged 27 points on 60% shooting from the floor, which nobody else has ever done in the history of the NBA. And he's truly a young, great star if he can stay healthy. At center, I'm going to put Jaren Jackson Jr. in last year, averaged about 15.5 points a game. Shot the ball from 3 a lot better than he did in his previous years in his career at about 37%. And I think he's going to be nice teaming up with Jalen Green next year on the Rockets. The next spot on the bench is going to go to Spencer Dinwiddie, who was traded from the Wizards to the Mavericks. And he averaged about 16 points a game when he was on the Mavericks, but I think he's going to get a lot more touches now that Jalen Brunson is gone, and he's going to be the secondary ball handler, so I think he'll get more shots. So yeah, I think he's going to be an important piece for the Mavericks this year, being one of the few ball handlers on the team. The last spot's going to go to Keldon Johnson. I'm not going to lie, I don't watch a lot of Spurs games, so I don't know a lot about this guy, but he averaged 17 points a game last year and shot the ball very well, close to 40%. He's probably going to be their best player this season. Now this is a pretty solid lineup. I like their starting five. I think it's very decent. However, their bench depth is a little bit weak. Their top 7 guys are pretty solid. Wood and McCollum on the bench. However, the rest of them is a little bit weak. Then we know who else you would have added to this division. What I'm going to do now is rank all these divisions. At number 1, we're going to go with the Pacific Division. This team is just stacked. All of their starting five are top 10 caliber players in the NFL. And their entire bench is almost all star caliber players as well. In close second, we have the Atlantic Division. This team's really good as well. Their starting five is star heavy, top 4, maybe top 15 players except for Jalen Brown. And their bench is also similar to the Pacific Divisions, as all of them are all-star caliber players. Now in third place, I'd actually have to go with the Central Division. And I know I was talking down on them before, but once I compared them to the other division, it actually turns out that they're not as bad as a team as I thought. Their starting five is pretty solid, and it's got some star talent, and the bench isn't as bad as I thought when I compared it to the other divisions. At number 4, we'll go with the Northwest Division. Can't go wrong getting the back-to-back MVP, Damian Lillard, who's a top 10 player when he's healthy, and also followed by 3 all-star caliber players in his starting five. Now the first half of the bench is pretty good, but once you start to go down the line, it starts to drop off a little bit. At number 5, we got the Southwest Division. The starting five is pretty good. You got Ja Morant and Luka Doncic. However, you have a couple of weak links in Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Ingram. Not that they're bad players, just not as good compared to the rest of the divisions. And the bench is a lot weaker compared to the other teams, as none of them are all-stars. And the worst division, in my opinion, has to be the Southeast Division. It's not too bad, but just in comparison to the other divisions,